Elevation Nation. As you know, one of the coolest parts about having a podcast is you get to meet new people. And it's especially cool when another elevator introduces you to a new elevator. Even cooler when that elevator is my roommate sitting right outside right now. DC is a very small community. That is what I have learned. And so I'm extremely honored and excited to have on our guest tonight someone who we talked for a bit about. Is she a content creator? Is she not? We're going to say that Sarah is the right kind of content creator with her media company and her new newsletter that she just launched. Not the icky content creators that Parker and I are trying to be in terms of our atrocious TikToks, but we are trying. Sarah Mucha, welcome to Elevation Nation. I am so honored and excited that you are here and looking forward to welcoming you into our community.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sarah, I'm really pumped for the conversation, but I got to give Sam some crap right now. You're just dropping bombs on my production skills here, my TikTok
It's
videos.
with love. You've come a long
man.
way.
Like that,
I will say that.
That hurt me inside. Like, come on, man. We've worked hard at this, and we've gotten better from where we were. 3 years later, I hope I would get a little bit more love for our content creation. All right, that's different discussion another time. Sarah, what's going on? We're pumped to have you.
You guys need a mediator. Let me know.
Fair enough. Well, even better. That's good. I'm so pumped for this conversation because I love connecting with DC people. I lived in DC for 3 years. When Sam moved to DC, I was like, I got to get the hell out. I moved to New York. But we're still doing Elevation Nation. We've interviewed a bunch of people in the DC scene. And I'm just really excited to get into it. Looking at your LinkedIn, your Twitter, I mean, you got, what, 20,000 followers? You must be doing something right. But for Elevation Nation who doesn't know you or follow you on social, it is, it is Elevation Nation. You got to give an elevator pitch. Who are you, Sarah?
So I am a former political and White House reporter. I covered Joe Biden on the campaign trail in 2020 for CNN, and then I went to Axios, where I was a White House and congressional reporter. We could talk about this later, but I realized, not that long ago that it was not the right fit for me to be a political reporter. So I ended up leaving that job, and in about a year of soul searching, I decided to launch my own LLC and a newsletter. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I'm also going to be an let me get this title right. I am an adjunct lecturer at Georgetown this fall.
Damn. We're
So
ready
casual.
for knowledge bombs.
No big deal.
That's
Okay.
awesome. I didn't have that in the show
Didn't
notes.
tell you that.
You certainly did not tell me
Breaking
that.
news.
No big deal.
That's what I
Just
specialize
drop
in.
that. That is so cool. And we're going to get all into your story. Obviously, took a little bit of a pivot and a turn, but I want to throw it back a little bit first, Sarah. I want to go back to childhood Sarah, who grew up not very far from where I grew up in the suburbs of the Chicagoland area. So as a little girl, when you were growing up, what did you want to be? Did you always want to be in DC and around politics, or did you have different ambitions?
No, not even remotely. We didn't talk about politics at our kitchen table. My parents are immigrants from Poland. I'm actually a first-generation college student. So a lot of our conversations revolved around how I was going to get to school and how they were going to pay for it, or how we as a family were going to pay for it. They helped, but I ended up paying for most of it. So I really, what did I want to be when I grew up? I feel like everyone wants to at some point be a teacher. Then I decided that wasn't for me. I wanted to be Hannah Montana for a little bit, but then I realized Hannah Montana already exists, so I can't be her. I sort of started this idea that I wanted to be a journalist when I was 14. I was obsessed with, and I mean obsessed with Live with Regis and Kelly. Like how 14-year-olds are. And I would DVR it every day because that was when DVR was still a thing. I don't think it's a thing anymore, right? And I would watch it every single afternoon. I was more focused on the producer that they highlight. His name is Michael Gelman, and they always pan to him. And I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Ended up going to college and doing something completely different. when I was actually, and this is kind of funny, as a kid, I wanted to be like a bunch of different things, obviously. So, like, at one point it was a producer, at one point it was a teacher, at one point, when I was 12, I ran in this pageant. It was for Junior Miss Antioch, which is the town that I'm from. Spoiler alert, I ended up winning. But before I won, they make you like walk around and they talk about you in like Sarah is blah, blah, blah. And like you had to like answer questions on this sheet of paper beforehand. And one of the questions, like, where do you want to be in 10 years or something like that? It's like Sarah wants to, I was 12 at this time. I can't remember if I said that. So in 10 years, Sarah wants to either go to Belmont and become a country singer or go to Georgetown and become a lawyer. So my 12-year-old self like had a premonition. I ended up going to
Wow.
Georgetown. I did not become a lawyer, but I studied international politics with a concentration in international law. So
Okay.
who knows?
So
Don't
you
let your
knew.
dreams be dreams, kids.
Okay, on a weird note, before Parker jumps in, I do think there is a
Yeah.
lot of like hidden power in you even just putting that down on paper as a 12-year-old, not even really knowing probably where Georgetown was or like what that even really meant,
Mm-hmm.
but just hearing it's a great school. Like, I truly believe
Yeah.
in the law of attraction. And so I think that's very cool that even subconsciously you made that happen. So call me a hippie, but I think that's legit.
No, I kind of agree with you.
It's
I feel
not
like
really
I've
being a
been
hippie,
writing down
Sam.
my goals. Yeah.
Manifesting right there.
I think that's just writing down
I
your
gotta
goals, Isn't there
totally.
some
Oh, we're
statistic?
gonna
Oh,
get
sorry. I'm
we're
not
gonna
going to
get
take
all
over your
into
show.
that.
I'm so sorry.
No. We'll get into all that. Save the statistic for the conversation in a bit. But I got a question about Michael Gelman. Like Michael Gelman on the show.
Yeah.
What was the show again?
Yeah.
You said Regis
Live with
and
Regis and Kelly.
okay. So
Kelly.
we talk all about young adulthood. We talk all about how so people need to be inspired to go want to do instead. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can just go do, but when you go do something, when you have that inspiration, it is like so much better. So looking back to your 14-year-old self, what was it about Michael Gelman that like inspired you so much that you were like, I want to be in this position one day?
So, no shade to Michael himself. He's a lovely man, but who actually inspired me was Kelly Ripa. She's hilarious. She's like a super strong type of female who is not afraid to share her opinion, but she's also really funny and extremely witty. On top of that, like very, very smart, but also just like a good television presence. And what I wanted was to be kind of Michael Gelman and work with somebody like Kelly Ripa. So Michael was cool, but what I thought was really cool was that he got to work with her.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I think it's funny reflecting, and that's why I love asking that question, because we don't often think back to like what our cute little childhood brains were aspiring towards. And what's really cool, I think, in today's day and age, and I know I made fun of social media and TikTok at the beginning, but I do think that the next generation of young people coming up and trying to figure out what they want to do, like I remember when we were probably 12 and you take the like, what's your career test? And you answer like 50 questions and they tell you what you're going to be. And it's like, how can you throw that perceived value on so many kids and just say like, this is what you're going to be and this is what you're good at? And I think now with social media and TikTok and journalism and newsletters and podcasts, young people everywhere are getting exposed to new ways to make a career and find fulfillment. And I hope that through our platform and Sarah, some of the work that you're doing, that some young people can kind of get the light shined on some of the maybe not so great things and some of the great things about all the different careers that are out there. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's just interesting to think about.
No, absolutely. I think a lie that we are told, or maybe we're not even told it, we just believe it when we're younger, is that you pick this thing that you want to do and that's going to be what you do for the rest of your life. And if you don't, it's this like big deal. And it's not. It's not a big deal at all to change careers. And in fact, the scariest thing is thinking about it. But once you take the leap, we're adaptive. All humans adapt to whatever situation we're living in. And so you adapt and you live, and sometimes you're actually, I mean, in my case, much happier that you made that decision.
You know what's funny? I read this like statistic online about what there was a poll that asked young people what they want to be when they grow up. And I feel like when we were growing up, the top answer was probably like an astronaut, or maybe, or for our parents too, like be an astronaut. An astronaut has now moved down to 5. And you ready for the top 4? It is UPS driver as number 1, which I was shocked to hear. And then second, vlogger and YouTuber. Third, teacher. Fourth, professional athlete. And I just think it's so interesting because, like, astronaut was everyone wanted to be an astronaut. I think at some point. Maybe I'm the only one, Sarah. You wanted to be a lawyer when you were 12. Can't say the same, but I just think it's so funny how things change. And to Sam's point about social media, you see what's out there and what the world is, and through this phone, and like, wow, I'm inspired. I want to be like that. But can you actually get to that and be that person?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so wide. Like, yeah, that's UPS driver. I did not see that one coming, Parker. You really caught me by surprise. I saw vlogger and YouTuber, but UPS driver is unique.
Well, did you see that they just raised I think the minimum salary for, what was it, UPS drivers or mail drivers up to like, they can make up to like 180 grand now or something a year?
UPS drivers, do your thing.
Crazy.
These kids are smarter than us. Good for them.
Yeah,
I love
good for them.
Okay, Sarah, enough about what you wanted to be as a young child, although I'm kind of fascinated and we could, I guess, have this conversation. I did not see it going this way. I want to talk a little bit about when you went to Georgetown, right? We now are in this beautiful city that we both call home. You went into the political journalism space, getting jobs that pretty much people work their entire lives to get, having a ton of success as a young adult. I'm sure a little bit of imposter syndrome hit you, a bit of, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? When you first were coming on the scene, did you have those moments where you were like looking around going, what the hell am I doing with these people here?
100%. My first day at CNN. So I started out as a news assistant. That's like bottom of the rung. You're getting coffee for people, you're running scripts. But my first day, I was printing out scripts for Wolf Blitzer, Jake Tapper, and John King. I met all 3 of them in my first day, and I was floored. Like, I'd only ever seen these people on TV. I'm not from here. And so while a lot of my friends, it's like pretty normal to interact with people like that because they grew up here or in those kinds of circles. Again, I'm from Antioch, Illinois. It's a very small town. That was not my case or my experience. So I was definitely starstruck for a bit. And then, I mean, I don't want to make this, but like, it becomes your job, and that's what you are paid to do. So you lose that sort of, I guess, the starstruck feeling goes away. I don't think that the awe of being in the room, oh my God, I hate that I just am about to quote Hamilton, but I am, the room where it happens, the awe that you have like does not go away. And it
Nothing
never
wrong with
did.
that, by the way.
I mean, it's the best. It's the best
So
musical.
good.
I saw it with my mom in London recently. It was so good. I think, I didn't lose that feeling of awe ever. However, when you are living in a reality of a job, like, you do have the negative components that come with it, right? Like being yelled at because it's broadcast news and people yell. It's a real thing. I had no idea that like a normal work environment does not include screaming. I had no idea until I left. But all that being said, it was crazy. Of course I felt imposter syndrome. I felt imposter syndrome the moment that I stepped onto Georgetown's campus. I had, these people went to schools that I had never heard of, but all of them went there, right? Like a lot of my friends went to boarding schools and they all knew each other from school. And I was the only one from my high school that went to Georgetown. So that part was hard, but it got easier in a sense. I think it's easy to feel imposter syndrome when you're younger, no matter where you are or where you come from or what position you come from, because we don't know what other people are thinking. So when I started talking to other students and they said, oh my God, no, like I also am so scared of failing this test, or, oh no, I also have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to play it by ear and figure it out as I go. that kind of vulnerability was what was my saving grace. And when I learned that other people were going through the same stuff as I was, and then also what helped was I ended up getting good grades and improving myself and becoming a TA. And I was like, okay, so if I work hard, I can fit in here. And that was the same case when I graduated and went to work at a place like CNN. I mean, I hate to be this person, but I worked really, really hard and tried to prove myself and did a lot of things that were extra to, almost extracurricular to my actual job description. And that earned me a little bit of respect, I think, from my peers and more importantly, the people who were my bosses or who I worked for in some capacity or another. And the imposter syndrome, I think, fades in that sense. I
Hmm.
don't know if I want to say that it goes away, but I do think it fades as you continue to like, or in my case, like as I continue to prove to myself what I could do and what I was worth and kind of put those horse blinders on that people always say, and just like focus on your path, which is very hard to do, especially in a really competitive and cutthroat environment like news. But as I get older, I found that the more that I do that, the better and happier I am.
Hmm. That's so interesting. My sister graduated from Newhouse in Syracuse, and she went into broadcast journalism, and she did, shout out Colby, how many months? 6 months at a news station at the beaches of Delmarva. She was a reporter, and
Uh-huh.
she was like, "This is not for me. This is this cutthroat environment, the pressure. To your point, like the screaming and." I just remember, I'm like, oh my God. Like, okay, so she took a step back and was like, yeah, this is not for me. She made the decision. Now she loves her job. But I can't
Mhm.
imagine the people who get over that hump and like how they get over that hump and they use that as fuel to keep going and pushing. They love that cutthroat environment. You're at the forefront of what's happening. I mean, it's CNN. You're not covering what's going on at Dewey Beach. You are covering what's going on in the United States of America. And I can't imagine when you're waking up every single morning, whether it's CNN or Axios, like you have no idea what's going to come. And I feel like it,
Yeah.
in some sense, Sarah, it seems like it became your entire life.
Yeah, and that was the problem. I would wake up every day so let's start, when I was helping CNN cover Congress as a producer, that's where I moved up after I was news assistant. And I knew that I wanted to be an embed. An embed is basically a reporter that is, by nature of the word, embedded into a campaign. So I was quote unquote embedded into Joe Biden's campaign. That meant wherever he went in 2020, I was there. Like wherever he slept, that is the same hotel that I slept in. It's kind of like you're being paid to stalk, but also the campaign is super aware of it and they facilitate a lot of that stalking because the media and politicians like trajectory like go hand in hand, right? So, and the thing, like you have to be there because you just never know what's going to happen, to your point. It started on Capitol Hill. Every morning I would wait for a text. I'd get up at 6 a.m. because sometimes I'd have to go in at 7. Sometimes it was until 10. I wouldn't know. I would just have to wait. I could be there until 4 p.m. I could be there till 6, but a lot of times it was 10 or 11 p.m. Then go fast forward to the campaign. It is the best job that I would never want to do again, ever in my life. But I saw history. In fact, I was almost a part of it in a way. And I got to ask questions of Joe Biden that ended up making news and making, headlines, or hopefully what I did was inform voters so that they could make a
Hmm.
good decision. That's sort of the goal with what I was doing. But the fun part for me, I mean, I gave up my apartment in DC and I lived out of a suitcase for almost 2 years. I spent a lot of time in Iowa.
Wow. two
Yeah,
years
almost.
in
Yeah,
hotel,
from,
just hotels.
uh-huh. Yeah. It went from like nice hotels if we were in New York or LA to like on my 25th birthday, I woke up in a Super 8 motel.
Oh my
So,
God.
So you're
yeah.
like, Parker and I joke, being
Ultra, like
consultants.
she's
We,
platinum, gold,
yeah, you've got the
everything.
Yeah.
status
Like
out the wazoo
she's like,
now.
I don't even know what are you, the ironclad status?
I don't want to brag, but I am Ambassador Elite
I
for
figured,
Marriott.
yeah, okay, that's the top, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you get like your own personal ambassador. So instead of calling customer service, you just call like Nancy. It's the most absurd thing in the world.
That's
And like
crazy. Oh
honestly
my
embarrassing.
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
At such a young age too.
I think it's like 200 nights. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like something absurd too. I mean, I spent more nights in hotel rooms than I did anywhere else because I didn't have a home base. Like, I would go back home to Antioch for like a night to go to a doctor's appointment and like make sure I was still alive because I couldn't even tell myself I needed someone to like check me out. I had zero processing chip during those 2 years because it was constantly on the go. And then it was back to another hotel. And it could have been like sometimes we did 3 cities in a day. Towards the
Yeah, the
end, we
campaign
were
trail ain't no
hitting,
joke.
no, towards the end, we did like 3 states in a day. We crossed from, this was fun because we flew private, but we flew from Virginia to Houston and Dallas and then LA or Oakland or something. I don't remember. I have
Jeez.
like a spreadsheet, but it was just like literally cross country in a day. It was insane.
Oh
And so,
my-
okay,
and you're working on the
obviously-
plane. You're like literally typing. You're getting
Oh, yeah.
prepared. Everything. Oh my god.
Yep.
It's
Not an
exhilarating.
It
easy
doesn't
life.
stop. You not at all, and that's why you do it for such a short time and you never do it again because it's impossible.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that of never doing it again, right? So I'm doing air quotes for people that aren't watching on YouTube. Dream job, traveling the world, not the world, the country, 2 years,
Mhm.
making an impact, kicking butt, working very hard, not processing things probably well because there's no Sarah really anymore. It's the campaign. 2 years is
Mhm.
up. History was made. We all know what happened. I won't get political, but I will send you videos of me and Matt from that day. And then it was
I
a little
look
bit
forward to it.
of a little bit of what now? And I think, you know, you obviously had another role after this, but it probably was starting to trigger your I can't do this anymore instinct. Talk to us a little bit about going from, I don't want to call it a high, but like whatever you want to call the campaign to campaign's over. What do I do next?
Yeah, you nailed it actually. That's funny. I knew then that reporting wasn't for me, but it didn't make sense to jump because I was in a really successful place. Like, I covered the man who got to the White House, and so I had a lot of sources and contacts that made me a relatively, like, it doesn't really even have that much to do with me except that I just happened to be assigned to him, and then also like they kept me on him. They didn't take me off as he got better, but I did not want to be a producer anymore. I knew that. So no longer did Sarah want to be Michael Gelman. I wanted to be a reporter, and I had goals. I wanted to report on the White House. I wanted to get on TV, and I wanted to land interviews with newsmakers. Even though I technically knew this isn't exactly what I want to do, I think there was a part of me that was like so far lodged in the back of my head because I had this idea of success. Like, I knew what success looked like in my mind and what it looked like to the outside, and I was constantly praised for what I was doing. So why would I stop, right? The answer ultimately is because I was unhappy, but I didn't know that then. So it happened in like a week. I think I got a job offer at Axios. They needed a White House reporter. It's exactly what I wanted to do. And the irony of working in TV is that it's actually easier to get on television if you leave television. So I went to Axios, and my first day, I got a request to do a TV appearance. We call them hits on like CBS or MSNBC. I can't remember, but like literally the first day. So I achieved two of my goals pretty much in a day, right? Like, I got the White House reporter job and I got to be on TV. And I was like, okay, well, I'm successful, so I have to keep going.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, you froze for a second. So we
Okay.
missed the last
Oh, no.
part, but I think I know what you said, so it's
Okay.
all
Me-
good.
me too.
And go ahead, Parker.
All right.
I was going to
So-
ask. All right, so first time on television after you're at Axios, what was the hit on?
Oh God, I don't remember.
Oh,
I have
don't
no
even remember.
idea.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you've
No,
done
it was
plenty. That's a hard question. That's like
probably
asking
Joe
how many,
Manchin.
Wait, but
episodes.
that actually, Parker, that brings up an interesting point, right? That I wanna hit on here, pun intended.
Pun intended.
Okay, so Sarah had this. You had this goal in the back of your head. I want to be on TV. I want to make.
Yeah.
That'll mean I made it. I'm interviewing people. You're the one being interviewed, right? We get to that point. Parker just asked you what was the hit on, and we can't even remember.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes like that was a beautiful. We did not plan that. That is a beautiful analogy for our deepest dreams and goals and aspirations that we're told is the right thing to do, that we're told equates to success. We're told that will make you happy. We think, all right, I got to do whatever it takes to get there. And then we get there. We realize it doesn't make us happy. We don't care. And we literally forget about it. Like, that is so just incredible that life works that way. And I think it's unfortunately in American society, we are taught what is success, air quotes, what is happiness. And so we do everything in our power as an ambitious, elevating young person to get there. And yet it doesn't bring us happiness. But I will say, do you feel, Sarah, that if you didn't ever get on TV, that would still be nagging you in the back of your head? Like, even though you don't care about it anymore, would it still be driving you a little bit insane?
That's a really good question. I think I I mean I have no idea. I can't imagine my life any differently than the way that I lived it. But I will say it this way that I needed to do it in order to realize that it wasn't what I wanted. And I didn't need it in order to be happy.
Okay, let's talk about this. We're getting deep. Oh man, this is what it's all
I love it.
about. Okay, so you're at Axios. You realize that you're not fulfilled, right?
hmm
When was the moment where you realized, we call it, Sam and I call it the oh shit moment. The oh shit moment when you're sitting there and you're like, shit, something's got to change. Our oh shit moment was when we were sitting first year out of college. Sam and I are both in consulting. We still are at the same company that we were at 5 years ago. We were like, oh shit, our lives are miserable. We're depressed. We're unhappy. We need to make a change. We got into a car. We drove to my parents' beach house in Ocean City, Maryland. We locked ourselves in the house in February on a weekend. We tried to figure out life. But what came of that was Elevation Nation. And now we're 3.5 years later doing this. And I can guarantee you that oh shit moment led me to here. And I can tell you I'm the most fulfilled I probably have ever felt. And I'll pass it to you, Sarah. Let's talk through your oh shit moment.
I love that. I had a couple. It wasn't just one. And I do think that it can happen that way too. It can be a little bit of a slow burn. Have you heard of like the frog metaphor that if you're like boiling a frog in hot water, they don't know that it's like they're being boiled until they're dead, essentially. So I was being boiled. uh, it started with a tough boss who did not have my best interest at heart. Then it led to, a managing situation that was also really rough. And then it was the type of reporting that I was being asked to do that really did not align with my values. And it rubbed against my ethics. Like I was just being asked to do things that they didn't sit right with me. Um, and it was at that time, it was about a year, at a year at Axios, and my contract was up. And so I approached my manager, wanted to leave on good terms. So I said, this is not right. And so at that time, my oh shit moment was not, I want to leave reporting. It was, I need to leave this specific workplace. It wasn't until I left and I had another offer actually the same day that I left. I received another offer and I said no. And it was a great offer. Like, I don't know, but it's just something didn't sit right in my gut. And so I said no. And I went down this long road of self-discovery that included freelancing. I wrote some articles for like Vanity Fair and the New Republic, and they were still political type stories. And I was looking at jobs, but I wasn't really interested in them. So I stayed freelance for a while. And then I was on the phone with a mentor. And I guess this was like the second oh shit moment. I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not it. It's like, I feel like I could make money by consulting. I want to start whatever. She's like, you should write about this. Like, you should write about how you are not fulfilled and how, like, living against your ethics in a job could take a toll on you. And so I did. I wrote that article for Women's Health. It was about why I left my job and what it meant. And that article had such a huge response. Like, in the 5 years of reporting that I've ever done and all the stories that I've written, or six, no, I don't even know how many anymore. In the 5 years, I think I had not had like combined as many people reach out to me as they did about that one article. And I was like, okay, this was really easy for me to write. It was so much fun. Clearly, this is the kind of writing I should be doing. And so I used that article to then launch officially my LLC. I had been doing some stuff like on the side, but I launched that. I'm doing some like media consulting now. I'm really focused on writing a newsletter as well that is kind of an extension of that article. And it's basically just talking about how success is not exactly what we think it is. And my lessons that I've learned, along with like interviews with a bunch of experts who talk, know things about like meditation and burnout and choosing the right type of career for you that isn't, all consuming, different things like that. So I feel like I've really found kind of without sounding too woo woo, but I really feel like I found my path. And I would not have been able to do that if I didn't go through all the things that I went through. So I would never take any of it back. Like, it was the hardest time in my life, the year between, or however long it was between leaving Axios and figuring out what I wanted. But it was so formative. And I feel like I learned so much that I can use and share and, continue to grow, but also like build a career that is in some parts just a job, because a job is a job, and like to do things on the side that will fulfill me in other ways, but it's also a way that I can give back and like really feel like I'm living in my values, which is the most important thing to me.
It's interesting how people get thrust into certain tough situations and how, I'm going to be cheesy here, and how they can elevate out of them, right? And so the whole time you were telling that anecdote, Sarah, I was thinking to something that Parker and I love to preach at Elevation Nation. And I think really this was the key to us elevating out of the funks that we were in. And it sounds like the same for you. And I believe, and Parker believes, that it's the missing piece that young people need to find fulfillment and happiness as a young adult. And it's this concept we love called mental fortitude. And so we break mental fortitude down into 3 parts at Elevation Nation. It's yourself, your vision, and your fuel. Who you are at your core, what truly brings you fulfillment and happiness, your vision of what you want to get out of it. This goes back to you wanting to be on TV, right? Like, that might not bring you fulfillment, but you knew in your gut you needed to do it at some point. And lastly, your fuel. What drives you? And this is the interesting one. For some people, it's fame. Some people, it's money. Some people, it's success and notoriety. Whatever it may be, you have to get very real to yourself with what is actually driving you forward. And it's easy to say, oh, I just, want to do a good job. Actually take a minute and think about what fuels you. And when you combine all 3 of those things together, you can take a step back and be like, am I going down the right path right now? Do I need a minute to myself to figure out who the hell I am? Do I need to talk to a therapist? Do I need to talk to friends? Whatever it may be. And I think for some people, hopefully listening to this show, you're not being thrust into tough situations like Sarah was in, and the situation where I was depressed and needed Parker and figured my way out of it. Hopefully, by hearing us talk about this, you're able to use mental fortitude just on a monthly or weekly basis to think, all right, am I headed in the right direction? But for those that are going through something right now, let my story, and most importantly, let Sarah's story here, kind of be that inspiration to say, when the times get tough, take a step back and figure out your pieces of mental fortitude. And I can guarantee you, you will feel better about the direction you're heading.
Sam, that was a pretty special sermon. I know you've given some sermons over the last couple days, months, years, I guess. That was pretty good, I will have to say. No,
Thank
I
you.
mean, Sarah, mental fortitude is the key ingredient, the thing that has helped me as well as Sam really understand how to get to the next level and elevate. When times are good, when times are bad, I always revert to my mental fortitude to get through those things. And knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and knowing what fuels you is, I think, a really important ingredient that helps you get through those tough times. And what's beautiful about mental fortitude is that it changes. You're going to need different types of fuel. You're going to need a new vision. You're going to need to understand new things about yourself, because as time goes on, you change as a human. So curious, like, what are your thoughts on mental fortitude?
I love everything you guys are saying. I think a big part of my journey during that time was I started meditating because I talked to I have a therapist who's really great, but I also spoke to a bunch of experts. And a big part of kind of separating myself from the expectations that I had was to just figure out what it is that I value. And by meditating and being able to really just like focus on the moment, I was able to think about like, okay, what are the things that I really care about in this world that maybe propel me, but also ground me. And a lot of that was, it was like kindness and service and things that I realized like when I live in these values, maybe I'm not happy because I don't know if happiness is really the goal. Like I'm content. I think if you can find contentment, then the rest of it, happiness it's a feeling. Like sometimes you're happy because a bird, flew by you and it was really pretty, and then you're sad because maybe that bird shit on you. Sorry, I don't know if can we swear? Okay, cool. Um, those are fleeting things, but like if in that moment you can be content because like let's say you're outside and one of your values is to like really love nature or to just spend time alone, that's contentment. And I know that's just a metaphor, but you can do that in life. And I feel like I have been able to really do that by living in the values that I have found to be important to me. And everyone has different values. Actually, Brene Brown has this really cool values worksheet. You guys know who Brene Brown is? And you can just like Google Brene Brown values worksheet. I used that. Like that's literally how I found my values. And then when I meditated on those values. I still do. I like think about them pretty much daily. And it's helped me build my life. So I think in that sense, like that's kind of my mental fortitude. And that's where I'm at right now.
What I love about all the conversations we've had, I mean, this is like 260 we've had on Elevation Nation, is that every elevator gets that, gets the idea that you need to be introspective. You need to understand your values so that you can create the future that you want. You can hold yourself accountable day in and day out and think about those things. And what's amazing about the people who elevate, they know that stuff and they don't look to the outside world to determine those values for them. They're like, no, block out outside world, put the blinders on. This is me and this is what I care about and this is how I want to live my life. And that takes a lot of mental fortitude to get to be able to accept that and live by that. And Sam and I are on a mission to help other people, more people, live that way too.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so great what you guys are doing. And it's so important, especially for people to learn it at a younger age so they can learn that what the outside look what comes of trying to live for success from the outside world. Like you're not happy. I can vouch for it. Like it did not bring me happiness. It brought me a lot of praise. It got me some followers on Twitter, but I thought I cared about that. I thought about being I thought I cared about being verified. Like I got all those things. Guess what? It didn't matter. Like it did not matter at the end of the day at all.
So your point on young people need to learn this and we need to teach it to young people. Parker and I, love speaking at high schools and colleges. So if anyone out there is listening and wants us to come speak at your school, we've done a few schools this past year. Our goal is to do more this year. We'd love to talk to you about mental fortitude because, Sarah, I think you are absolutely right that should be taught right along with algebra and home ec or whatever else you learned in high school.
Someone should be teaching us how to do taxes in high school too, but that's another podcast.
And it's not even how to do taxes, how to use TurboTax. Like I don't need to like be an accountant. Like just teach me how to use TurboTax. I'm with you. Okay. We're all on the same page. Young adulthood is hard. We got real deep today.
So they make it hard for a reason. I just feel like that's the case.
I think it's just hard, bro. It's taxes. It's not easy.
It's a little conspiracy-y, but I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I'm just saying. I'm like
Parker sketch
I let Sam do the Elevation Nation tax this year. You know,
God, I don't know if you want that. No one come after us. We're doing our best. All right, Sarah, we got super deep today, and I love that. And I can't wait to do this in person because this is what is amazing about Elevation Nation is having young people come together who maybe didn't know each other before, but getting vulnerable and open about some of the struggles that we've gone through. So I want to thank you for that. But I want to move into a fun, quick little section that we love to do on Elevation Nation, which is our rapid fire section. Ooh. So we have a few questions. First thing that comes to mind, no right or wrong answers. Are you ready?
I'm stressed, but I'm ready.
Okay, you'll be fine. This is way easier than being on the campaign trail. Okay, question number 1. I'm new-ish to DC. I guess. Not really. But I'm always looking for new spots. What is your favorite DC go-to restaurant that you think I should try?
The Diplomat.
Oh, God. That was the
Come on.
Wrong answer.
There are wrong answers.
It's a good spot.
Time. Do you know why it's a good spot? You can call it basic, but things are basic because they're good. People think Taylor Swift is basic. She is about to hit, I think she's going to keep going until she makes $2 billion on her tour.
Crazy.
She's basic, but it's good.
Fair.
Okay.
Listen,
Fair.
It is delicious.
Have you been, Sam?
Yes, I have. I should have seen that answer coming.
Let me guess. McP took you.
Obviously.
It's
my DC tour guide.
Yeah. All right, next question. Sarah, there's got to be one story, one embarrassing story from being on TV. We got to hear it. There's got to be one.
Oh my God. I don't know how embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I had pneumonia when I did my first MSNBC hit, and I was asked, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not canceling this. I was coughing so much. I got a prescription for a cough suppressant that you take immediately before. I took honey and I poured it down my throat right before my hit. I had a thing of tea with a bunch of honey in it, but I was still coughing for most of the hit. So it was embarrassing, but I felt proud of myself. I was like, I had pneumonia and I still did this.
There you go. Put that on your resume. Yeah. You want to get a job? Yeah, I'll show you my mental fortitude.
Yeah, seriously.
I did TV hit.
I just spoke against in one sentence.
I love that. That is wild. Okay, our last rapid fire question for you. Parker and I love to read. We're suckers for a good book. Do you have a book rec for us?
Oh my God, I do. My favorite book of all time is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. Have you guys read it?
No. Add it to our list.
God. It's so good. I think everyone should read this book. There's a specific poem that if you read it, I hope you remember that I'm saying this. It's the Holland poem, which you can actually look up. Also, I've written a newsletter on it, so you could go to my newsletter's website and find it there. But the book is basically a memoir about a therapist, and she talks about 5 patients that she sees and what she's thinking while she sees them. So if you go to therapy, it's kind of this inside look of what is my therapist thinking while I'm talking to them. And also she talks about her experience with her therapist and what she's thinking while she's talking. Her therapist is male, and there's a part that's really funny where she's like, am I sexually attracted to this man? Am I allowed to be? Should I tell him? It's hilarious, but it's also it was a life-changing read for me, truly. There are things from that book that I think about on a daily basis, like this Holland poem. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. She should pay me, honestly. I peddle this book as if I am her PR person.
Wow.
It's on the
Okay.
list. There you go.
Wow.
Read
It's
it.
on
I
the
love it.
list.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I feel like we all have like that one book that's just changed everything, just perspective, and it's usually I think nonfiction, but
I agree.
yeah,
But there are some good
it's
fiction
hard
books out
hitting. There's
there.
good fiction, but like some of those hard hitting reads are just like
Mhm.
real damn stories that have
Yeah.
happened in the world.
Shared
all right,
humanity.
Sarah, comes to our last question, and this is a really important question because we ask every single person who's joined Elevation Nation what their mental motto is. And for those who don't know, the mental motto is the phrase, the quote, the slogan that you live your life by. Sam's got a mental motto. If you're looking at on YouTube, he's wearing it on his chest. My mental motto is in my drawer and also inside my heart. That was really, But every other person in Elevation Nation has a mental motto. So, Sarah, we're welcoming you. We got to hear, what's your mental motto?
All right. So I use this pretty much daily as a way to ground myself. And I like to say it's a bit of a motto. It's also kind of a mantra. So I hope that's okay. But I always say, like, I'm not kidding. I use it all the time. I say, in this moment, you are enough. It reminds me of two things. One, I remember to be present in the moment. I've talked about how woo-woo I am and how much I meditate and fucking love it. But then also the second part is like, who I am is enough. And I do not have to prove myself to other people, as we talked about for this whole podcast.
The most amazing part of doing Elevation Nation is all the really freaking cool mental mottos that I get to now think about and ponder for the rest of the evening. And in a world where there's constant comparison and so many goals that we're trying to reach for societal expectations, reminding yourself that you are enough is just one little thing that you can do every day. And so what a beautiful mental motto to close out our podcast, Sarah. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, for meeting us, and most importantly, Parker and I had show notes prepped, totally different direction than we thought, which is beautiful. And thank you for getting vulnerable with us. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are following you and attracted to what you have to say. And I hope the feeling is mutual with people that listen to us is we are not perfect. We are young adults trying to figure this shit out. And if you're looking for advice and mistakes that we've made along the way, you are certainly in the right place. So, Sarah, I'm honored to welcome you officially to Elevation Nation, and I can't wait to hang out in person soon.
Yeah, why haven't we done this yet? What's going on?
We'll get it. And when Parker's coming here, actually, in a couple weeks,
a month from today.
So we might have to do it.
I'll be there.
Let's do it.
I'm around.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, before we cut, Sarah, I do just got to say thank you for being open with us. Your journey is incredible. I am super curious to see how your Georgetown lectures go. I can imagine that's so exciting, but yet, a little nerve-wracking in a sense. But we'll have to keep in the loop, and you'll see us from the sidelines. You'll see, hyping you up, elevating you.
Sneak into the lecture in the back.
Sam and I with our signs, and we're like, yeah, let's go. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. And again, I think what you guys are doing is so great.
Elevation Nation, until next week. Peace.